What's up everybody, welcome back or to the channel. So today we're going to be doing another addition to my 2019 Kawasaki Brute Force 750 right behind me. So what we're going to be doing today is actually unboxing and installing a new rear rack cage. So it's going to have more of a flatbed cage that goes right on top of your standard tubular rack. But behind that, it has an adjustable cage basket that could either be dropped down low or raised up high. And all you got to do is put the cage together and then bolt it down to your actual rack using the supplied U-bolts. Now, this shouldn't be a very hard installation, so without further ado, let's jump in and take a closer look at what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so right here is my 2019 Brute Force 750. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking off this rack pad that I have here temporarily, and we're going to be installing a new cage that goes on the back of this rack. But this new cage that I got actually extends back a little further with an adjustable basket that could either be dropped down low, so it's pretty much flush across the back, or you could raise it up high up here. So I think I'm actually going to end up raising it a little bit higher. That way, if one of my kids is sitting back here, they have more of a backrest at this point. But either way, we'll play around with it and see what works best. But that's what we're going to be working on today. And here it is right here in the box. Now, I did get this on Amazon, so I will put a link to all of this in the description. So without further ado, let's get this unboxed and see what we're working with. Okay, so we just went ahead and got this pulled out of that box. And as you can see, this is the Kolpin Outdoors rear convertible drop basket. Now this is from the company Kolpin, which is also who makes my rack pad. And if you haven't seen my unboxing and review video on that, definitely go check it out because this is a really nice pad that mounts really good to the back rack. Now this particular rack basket will mount to the top of your standard factory mount rack here. And it just uses the bolts like a U-bolt here, which should be fairly easy. And then the back basket here can actually be dropped down low or you can raise it up high. So I've been looking for a product like this and I'm really anxious to try it out and see how it does. So enough talking, let's get this unboxed and start putting it together. Okay, so we went ahead and got the box open. So we have the first rack here. We're just gonna go ahead and set this aside for now. Okay, we got some basic paperwork, probably some basic installation information. We'll set that aside. Take this out. Take that out. Okay, got some rails here. We'll set those aside. And so far, these are pretty sturdy metal racks here. Now, the metal gauge in the middle, I mean, it's definitely thin, but it definitely feels durable. So, should be fine. Cardboard. Okay, so there it is. So here is your back basket, which is pretty cool. Has some nice cutouts here. Looks pretty sharp. Has some branding on it. Okay, nice cutouts. That's what it looks like from the back. So again, this would be the bottom here. Again, it does have some support brackets here across the bottom, so it should be pretty well. Let me turn this over. Okay, so I mean, it has a little bit of flex to it, but it does feel pretty sturdy. So again, can't complain with that. But overall, it does seem very sturdy. And what I might eventually do is just cut a piece of plywood and fit it in the bottom of here, or maybe just get a small piece of sheet metal and stick that down across the bottom. It's basically just to add a little extra support and to help distribute some of the weight that I might be putting in here across the whole rack, so that it's not just putting too much weight on any of these larger sections here. But we'll worry about that on a different day. But overall, it looks pretty good. The welds look really good. The quality looks good. The finish on it looks really good. So again, pretty happy with that. Now, in that other box that was just here, I opened it up. Here are some of your brackets and U-bolts. So that'll go with that. It should be pretty easy to put together. You're just gonna mount your rack basket like that. You have your side rails like this. You wanna keep your 3 holes towards the back to mount to the basket. And it's really gonna come down to, do you wanna mount them up here like this so that the basket is set below your rear fender? Or do you mount them down lower like that to where the basket is raised higher than your fender? So I think for my purpose, I'm gonna try to raise it higher than your rear fender by just mounting the bolts down across the bottom. And then your other basket here, which is the bottom rack, is probably gonna go like this, if I can get it here. just like that. So again, to get everything installed together, it's best to lay everything out where you want it to begin with. So because I'm gonna be raising my rear cage up higher, I'll be mounting the bolts to the bottom of the cage in these holes here. And then you'll have your front cage here with the tubes facing down. And then you'll mount bolts into there and there. And then you're gonna be using the supplied bolts here, these black bolts here, to get everything mounted in. And then these U-bolts here is what you're gonna use to mount the whole assembly to your actual rack right here. So let me go ahead and put this together and get all the bolts in, and then we'll take off the rack pad and we'll start getting it mounted. So let me finish this up and we'll be right back. Okay, so far so good. Now on the back cage area, it's gonna come with 4 bolts and 4 nuts for the back. So it does come with a washer for the outside, but I went ahead and just added my own washers on the inside as well, as you can see, like that, okay? That way I don't have to worry about the bolt head or the nut stripping through and causing any kind of denting or bending in the actual cage metal. So I went ahead and kept the supplied washer on the outsides, and then I just put the bolt through, added my washers on the insides, threaded down the nuts, made sure they were tight, did that on both sides, okay, like so. So that is done. Now all I gotta do is take this metal rack here and take these supplied bolts here, and I'll probably put the washers on the outside as well, and then they just thread inside the tubing here. But I'm gonna go ahead and add a washer here as well. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we got done. So we went ahead and I got the front rack mounted on. Again, I just put my own washers over here on the sides, bolted them in on both sides. So now everything is put together on this complete rack. And again, this back rack can be either mounted up high like it is now, so it's higher than your fender, or you can mount these same bolts to the top and it'll drop your basket down here below your fender. But I wanted mine up high, that's why I mounted it to the lower part bolts on the cage. So now let me just go ahead and unstrap my rack pad and we'll start mounting this to the actual back rack. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I went ahead and took the rack pad off and I put the cage on top of the back bracket. Now I just have it sitting here for now. Now, when it comes to reviews, this Kolpin rack cage got some of the best reviews out there for overall quality and value. But the only negatives I really read about it was that the U-bolts supplied are too small. And I would have to agree with that. These are just not long enough when you're trying to mount it. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. Let's say that you're just trying to go underneath like this. Like, as you see right here, you could barely even get it to come through the cage. And you're supposed to get it up over top of this bar. So these bolts are just never long enough. So if you're gonna go with a kit like this, I would definitely recommend getting larger, longer ones yourself. And because of those reviews that I read before, I already anticipated that and I already bought 4 new ones myself. Now, as you can see here, this one is the one supplied. These are the ones I bought. So I bought bigger, stronger, beefier ones. So these are gonna really hold that cage on more firmly. Now again, I'm still gonna probably use these some other way, shape, or form. So I'm not getting rid of them because I like to keep bolts like that. But these are the ones I'm gonna use for mounting the cage to the actual rack. And then what I'll do is I'll probably put one up front, 2 across the back, and 1 over on that side. And then I'll just take a few zip ties and I'll zip tie a few other areas just for added support. So let me go ahead and position this where I want it. I actually want to kind of pull it off the back to where this cage is sitting kind of like that. Okay, I want this whole cage to kind of really be behind the quad a little bit because I really want to use that back bar and that middle bar right here, okay? I'm going to line them up so that I can add my brackets right here and right here. So I can actually get a good grip across that bar on both sides. You really don't want to use U-bolts through this metal mesh because again, it's real thin mesh. And eventually you can rust that out or break it, rip it, and then this won't be secure. So you want to try to find a way to put a U-bolt over top of the actual tubes or try to get a U-bolt that's going to go over the bottom tube here, right there, and come up over this main bracket here. If you can get one to come there, that'll be good as well. But you don't really want to put metal bracket U-bolts through the metal mesh. So let me go ahead and line it up where I want, and I'm going to put a couple of these U-bolts on there, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so just wanted you to see right here, these are the specs on the U-bolts that I purchased. So in case you want to get some for yourself, they work perfectly fine. They're a little heavier duty, but I'd say this would be probably the better way to go. But let's go ahead and put our last one on. Now real quick, I did take a drill bit out and drilled a hole. So I got the first bracket here on the front. Again, they're not tightened down all the way because I still want to add some blue Loctite on there. I added one bracket right there to this front main bar here. Now, just so you know, these bolts are going to come up from the bottom because this bend here at the bottom doesn't always go over the width here like that, okay? It will, but you lose some of the space. So if you come up from underneath, it works better because that bend will go on the bottom bar and then these two bolts are wide enough to go through here. However, on the back, let me show you here. I already drilled a hole. Okay, when you're coming up from under the back, I wanted to make sure that this lined up perfectly. I just drilled a hole right through this back beam right here. It's not on the post, it's just pretty much the edging of the wire mesh. Now watch, when I slide this under like this, that slides right in like that. And then I can go ahead and put my clamp on and my bolts and bolt it down and it'll hold it in place. So once I get those 4 clamps bolted down, blue Loctited and nice and tight, then I'll go back through with some larger, heavier duty black zip ties, and I'll add zip ties across the back as well. And that will just help add another level of stability to mounting this cage. So let me go ahead and get those bolts all tightened down and we'll be right back. Okay, so we went ahead and got everything strapped down. Again, I got all the bolts blue Loctited and I have them strapped down and torqued down pretty good and tight. So again, you don't have to do the zip ties, but I did a few extra zip ties all the way around the perimeter just for some added stability, just in case one of these bolts might let loose and the rack starts sliding around. That'll at least keep it kind of in place until I can catch it or notice it. So far, this thing is mounted on nice and tight. It is not going anywhere. I mean, I'm jerking around the whole quad here. I mean, this thing is not moving. So that is on there nice and tight. The back rack is on there nice and tight as well, okay? As you can see here, I'm like literally jerking the whole quad around. This thing is not rattling, it's not moving, it's not sliding. I mean, it is on there nice and tight. So far, I'm really happy with the overall quality of this rack cage here. I like having it up higher off the back. And now, when I go and put my rack pad back on, I could throw it back on the middle right here, just like that. And then strap it back down along the sides and back. And now I have that extra little seat up here with a little bit of a backrest here. And then the passengers can also grab down here on the sidebars here if need be. So again, that's what's nice about having it set up like that. Again, I can bring it a little bit more forward like that probably. That'll work pretty good there. But that's basically what it would end up looking like. But so far, it turned out really good. It's nice and sturdy. Can't complain. It'll work really well. I could put cans of fuel back here. I can carry my chainsaw back here. And this cage back here is going to really come in handy and work out well. And again, just to remind you, if you don't want the cage sticking up high like that in the back, what you could do is just mount these 2 bolts right here and here, mount them up here and here, and then this cage will drop down below. I didn't really want that because I get a lot of mud flinging up under here, which I assume I'm still going to get mud hitting underneath this cage anyways. But if this cage was down lower, it would be caked with mud in my opinion. So I kept mine up nice and high and really happy with how it turned out. Okay, quick update. I actually went ahead and undid my bolts and actually shifted the whole rack forward just a little bit so that it came to the front bar here even. That way the back cage was lined up with the back fender and it wasn't so far out here. Okay, this way it kind of allows better stability, I would think, and as far as weight distribution goes, I think this is the better option. So all I did was I took the whole rack and just slid that front bar all the way to the front bar here and mounted it right there. Okay, and as you can see here, the bar just comes over the back edge of the seat, so that's not a big deal there. So it just comes up to the edge there, just like that, and then I mounted it the same way on the back. It lines up with the back bar right here, and I put my U-bolts on the back bar instead of back here. So pretty much you can see here this distance, I mean, that's probably a good 5 or 6 inches. I shifted everything forward. And again, everything's mounted on nice and tight, and I think that's probably the better way to go. I actually like this much better. It actually puts the seat up here a little bit more forward, and it doesn't have this cage so far back here, because when I started looking at how it looked from the side, I think when I had the mounting bar mounted back here. This cage was way back here and it just didn't look right to me. But again, you could do it however you want. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I did update this and shifted everything forward. And I think this works out a lot better. So there you go, everybody. I told you it was going to be pretty simple, quick, and easy. Again, the Kolpin drop basket is really easy to install. You can put it together very quickly with just a few bolts. I would recommend adding a few washers, and I would recommend adding a little bit of blue Loctite just to make sure those threads lock in there nice and tight. Then as far as mounting it to the ATV, I do also recommend getting longer, stronger U-bolts and using them instead of the factory U-bolts. I just didn't think the factory ones were going to work that well. But the new ones work perfectly fine. I added a few extra zip ties for some added stability and support, and everything's nice and tight, and I'm really happy with it. So that's it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, like this video. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you. I truly appreciate you all. Thank you. And as always, see you in the next video.